The humanitarian crisis in Gaza is deepening. Since the Israel-Hamas war began, more than 66,000 people have been injured. That's according to the Hamas-run Gaza Health Ministry. In a desperate attempt to help the wounded, a French military hospital ship docked near Egypt and is treating the critically wounded, many of them children. Many of those children dealing with amputations. ABC's Ines de La Cuetara was given rare access to the hospital ship and takes us on board in tonight's Prime Focus. We do want to warn you, some of these images are difficult to watch.
The cries of children ringing out. One calling for his mother. Medics rushing to treat the wounded, working to help save lives. But in this unprecedented war, this is a hospital unlike any other. Just a few miles from the Gaza border, in Egypt's heavily restricted Sinai region, we were given rare access to visit the David, a French warship turned into a field hospital to treat some of Gaza's most seriously wounded. It's here we meet patients like 8-year-old Abdullah, injured in the thigh and arm, 16-year-old Ahmed, who had shrapnel in his knee, and Abdul Rahman, also just 16 years old. He was critically injured in the leg and head when he says an Israeli strike hit his home on Christmas Eve. He survived. The rest of his family did not.
أبوي إخواتي وظل بس أنا الوحيد في العيلة اللي إحنا فيها ضل بس أنا.
Over 27,000 Palestinians have been killed since the beginning of the war, but nearly 3 times that number have been injured, according to the Hamas-run health ministry. The war began after Hamas's October 7th attack in Israel killed 1,200 people, mostly civilians. And about 250 people were taken hostage, according to Israeli authorities. Very few Palestinians have been allowed to leave Gaza for treatment. According to Egyptian officials, just a few dozen daily.
On a des patients en ce moment qui viennent plutôt de Ranounès, qui viennent plutôt du sud de la bande de Gaza. Ils nous expliquent leur long parcours d'exode. Ils sont restés souvent plusieurs heures dans les décombres de leur logement avant que quelqu'un, un membre de leur famille survivant, les emmène vers des structures médicales.
Doctors telling us half of the patients they've treated are kids. 1 in 2 are amputees, often because of infected wounds.
Alors des amputations d'un membre, mais régulièrement nous avons malheureusement des enfants qui ont perdu 2 membres liés à l'ensevelissement, liés aux complications aussi de ces blessures, des délais de prise en charge.
The infection is like when we were in Nasser, like 50% of the patients got infected wounds, so the majority of them. And then it's very difficult to treat, especially when the infection reaches the bones. It's extremely difficult to treat, and we don't have the capacity, so we lose patients like this.
We're shown the various facilities set up aboard the David, a burns ward, a resuscitation room. A whiteboard outside the 2 operating rooms lists recent patients. All of them are minors.
Okay, so he's saying this is used to scan people as they come in, and they're trying to make sure that there are no hidden wounds that we can't see.
Many also suffer from PTSD. They report having nightmares and reliving horrific scenes.
After first being treated here, some of the patients who are the most critically wounded and might need additional care are then loaded onto these helicopters. And you can see this one here has been outfitted with a stretcher. It has all sorts of medical equipment on board, and the patients are then airlifted to Cairo hospitals.
You have a medical team that is sitting here, taking care of the wounded.
But these valiant efforts, just a drop in the ocean. The vast majority of injured Palestinians in Gaza treated in what Doctors Without Borders describes as catastrophic conditions.
Majority is women and children, and then you ask yourself, how come it's a war? It should be there should be much more men in edge of combat, because normally the war is between soldiers.
We meet the group's head of Palestine mission, Leo Kantz, in Cairo, having just returned from 2 weeks in Gaza. He describes overcrowded and understaffed hospitals. in dire need of medical supplies. Patients treated on the floor, no anesthetics to ease their pain.
You can hear people screaming everywhere because all this dressing requires, in normal time, you will do it under anesthetic. You will put them to sleep and you will change the dressing, especially for the burns.
Beyond that, he says the communications blackout means injured Palestinians often can't call for an ambulance, while the fighting near hospitals and the recent storming of the Al-Shifa hospital by Israeli forces means both patients and healthcare workers fear approaching what should be a safe haven. The IDF has said it is only targeting Hamas, accusing the group of deliberately using civilians as human shields in hospitals to launch operations from, which Hamas denies. U.S. intelligence has backed Israel's claims that Hamas and other Palestinian militant groups are using hospitals in the Gaza Strip and other medical facilities for military activities and holding hostages.
It's the first time I see this in a war context, that there is a systematic attack on the healthcare system. I spent a night in each of the hospitals, and you can hear the fighting very close. You can hear the wall shaking. Nasser itself hasn't been targeted by an airstrike, but all the vicinity of Nasser is targeted. And people are scared, so people leave. People getting out or in, and this is why they buried bodies inside Nasser Hospital yesterday and before yesterday. There's a cemetery just 100 meters away from the hospital, but people are too scared to walk to the cemetery. And currently Nasser is full of patients, which are critical patients, running with 20% of the medical staff. So I let you imagine how it's impossible for the patients to recover, and we expect that many of them will die because of this, because they don't have the proper health care.
Back on the Dixmude, patients pleading for the war to end.
جيل كامل من سكان قطاع غزة وفلسطين بأجمل اتدمر. جيل أطفال سن صغير اتدمر، وسن الشباب كمان اتدمر. يعني اللي زيي في ناس أسوأ مني، في جنبهم مقطعين، في إيديهم، في استشهدوا.
Abdurrahman won't be able to walk for another 4 to 6 months, and he's got a long road to recovery ahead, but says he looks forward to going back to Gaza once he's healed.
لأنه غزة مدينتي ودولتي.
The bodies of his mom and grandfather, he says, are still trapped under the rubble.
Our thanks to Ines for that report.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.